Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Syspro User Group Africa. This is the 9th user group for us, and I'm very proud to say that we have reached an all-time high of 310 registrations. This has been a great improvement since our launch 4 years ago, and thank you for everybody participating, our users and our partners, and obviously our Syspro colleagues. In terms of our agenda, we really have an international lineup today. I'm very pleased to say that the cast is very senior presenters, and we are spanning all across the globe from America, South Africa, and Australia. In terms of the agenda, we have Louise Thompson up first. Louise has been with Syspro for nearly 40 years. So Louise is taking the presentation today as our keynote, so no pressure to you, Louise, and thank you for participating. Louise is our Global Customer Relationship Executive, and we've discussed with Louise to please present Turning Challenges into Successes. Louise will present 3 case studies in 3 different international regions on 3 different customers in the time allocated to Louise. Then we will cross over to the UK, where we have Sarah Adamo, Finance Director from Trelawny, and Andrew Longland from HIT Technology, the partner, talking obviously from the UK. Then we'll go on to success story number 2, Varshan Mahabal. Hope I pronounced that correctly, from Actum. Varshan is the group IT manager, and there has been great development in Actum over the last couple of months, and we will discuss the strategy and the vision from Actum. So thank you from my side. And Russell Klein from Translution, based in the US, will also contribute to that presentation. So thank you for that, Russell, for partaking in the US in the time that you've been made to stay awake on that. So thank you from my side as well. Then we'll cross over to the 3rd success story, which is Bidcorp Food, Crown National. Where Aaron Brink, who is the ICT executive, and Mark Harrison, the enterprise solution architect, will present on their success story and the journey that they have followed for many years successfully with Syspro Africa. We have just compiled a testimonial with Crown Food, and we'll be happy to publish that and send this out to anyone that would like to look at the testimonial as well. It will be published on our website. Please reach out to me if you'd like a copy of that as well. And then finally, we'll cross to Australia, where Tracy Ash will be speaking. And Tracy is the General Manager of Strategy and Operations, together with Louise Diaga, responsible for implementation in South Africa. So we've got a star-studded agenda. I'd like to thank the presenters, thank the partners, thank our ISVs for participating in this presentation, as well as our Syspro representatives talking today. Finally, we have a change in the agenda in terms of the wrap-up. Thank you for Bongani once again for stepping in to do the wrap-up. Yanni Stein from Rhodes Foods Group unfortunately can't attend today, but Bongani from Umfalazi Sugar will do it independently. And thank you again, Bongani, for doing that. Lastly, or second last, those people that would like to put their names forward to present next year, we probably will have our 10th sugar at the end of March, which is at the end of Q1. Those people that would like to present, please reach out to me or any of our Syspro representatives to suggest how you would like to present on your own as a customer, with your partner, with your colleagues. Please feel free to reach out, as I say. We won't have time for questions and answers after each presentation. Please list your questions in the Q&A at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and at the end of the presentations, which is at the end of Trailed, I will come back on and moderate the questions and answers before I hand over to Bongani as the official closing and wrap up and the takeaways. So thank you again. Thank you for participating. It's a star-studded agenda. We are crossing globally, across America, across Australia, across the UK, and obviously Louise will take us to her 3 representative customers. Thank you from my side and enjoy the morning. Over to you, Louise.
Thank you, Brandon. And as Brandon mentioned, I have been with Syspro for close to 40 years. And I just love this topic because one of the areas when I moved from customer services into my customer relations role, the key area that I ended up sort of like handling was complaints. And, you know, there are obviously many aspects to a customer relations role, but the complaints area is where you've got a customer who's unhappy about a number of different things, and they care enough to actually contact Syspro and say, help me. So at the moment, the actual logging of a complaint is a pretty informal process, and it's either done by a phone call or an email to the support manager or service exec. It's a direct email to an ExCo member, or it's a conversation with the Syspro representative. And generally, these are loyal customers who want to work with us to resolve their issues. And in most cases, by the time I'm called in, it is generally a rather dismal situation, or you have a very, very frustrated customer at the other end. And the beauty of it is because I sit in the central team, I'm region independent, I have access to a couple of the resources, and it's not really me turning it around, it's just me orchestrating it and pulling in the relevant resources as we need them. So the first area I wanted to look at is the implementation stage. Sorry, I'm covering a number of different case studies, examples of where we've turned things around, and I'm hoping that some of these will resonate with you and assist you in working out where maybe you've been having a few challenges or where we could work with you. So the first was an implementation stage. And generally what we found here, I've got 3 examples where the requirements were not fully met or understood, or there was a lack of project management. And the first example was a UX one. And with this particular one, it was a difficult customer. They had a very, very strong IT team, felt that they could go it along. So the relationship with their partner had completely broken down. There was minimal involvement from the Syspro US team because it seemed to not be required. They had multiple network issues. When they were first implemented, there was a misunderstanding of should they have multiple companies or should they have multiple branches, and they were complaining about not being able to do intercompany transactions. So what we did was we said, well, how many legal entities are you? And they said 1. So then we said, well, you should have 1 company and multiple branches. And the nice thing there was a South African partner who'd recently changed one of her companies to do this particular scenario. So we called on her and asked her to assist them to migrate from multiple companies to a single company and multiple branches. And this was what made it even more complicated was that it was a global organization with head offices in Switzerland, and obviously a very, very strong team in the US office. The next one was an African example, and this one had an unfortunate situation because even though the partner knew exactly what to do, there was an unfortunate passing away of the one partner and various staff changes. But the key problem here was after that, the customer tried to implement WMS, PAS, and Syspro all at the same time. And I think we'll all recognize that you just can't do that. You have to bed down one area and then add the other areas on. And there was no project management. In this case, I called on a seasoned Syspro person, partner. She'd been in the ecosystem for well over 30 years, knew the environment, and they could trust her advice. So I brought her into this deal and she turned the whole situation around. The third one was a Canadian example. This was actually a direct customer. But there's a trend in North America where people believe if they've implemented multiple ERP systems themselves, that they could do a DIY implementation. And we all know Syspro is complex. So it's not that easy just to do a DIY implementation. They also had a fixation on a third-party product, which was totally irrelevant to their implementation. They didn't need it. Syspro could do it all for them. So, and again, no project management. And the interesting thing is I brought the same project manager who'd resolved the African issue into the Canadian one because it was on the east coast of Canada, so we could easily manage that particular one from South Africa. Then the next one, and the key to all of this, is actually listening, building trust and credibility, and being able to actually turn the situation around. So the next one was performance issues. And I think a number of people will be able to understand where this is coming from. In the customers might have upgraded from Syspro 7 to 8, and you get the system is slow. That is the general comment. So how do we tackle this? The very first thing is we tend to do with a slow system is to do an infrastructure and a network audit. And this is looking at the hardware, looking at the sizing, the amount of memory disk space, looking at the network cards. And then in addition to that is the various versions of Windows, SQL, etc. To assist with this, if you don't know, there are 3 very, very good articles available on the Info Zone or in the Syspro Help. The one is, what are the current supported platforms? In other words, which version of Windows should you be in, or SQL, or even Crystal for that matter. We had one situation where the person was on a very, very old version of Crystal. The hardware calculator, what are your hardware sizing requirements based on your number of users, transactions, and also a pre-installation upgrade tool to just establish if you've done everything you need to do. The second thing we did was we said, well, you can't just say the system's slow. Are there specific operators that are slow? Is there a specific branch that's slow? Is it maybe their connection? Are there operator preferences? Have roles been set up that might have conflict? And also, what customizations do you have in your system? Then the third area is looking at the data. How much history are you retaining? Do you really need that history? Or is some of it really just for reporting? And how much is just for transactional? So it's really having these conversations and understanding the customer's general requirements. So looking at this, we had a Canadian example. There were 63 user site and they'd been a customer for 24 years. So as you can imagine, they had upgraded probably from Syspro 3, Encore 3, all the way up to Syspro 8. So over the years, they'd done lots of upgrades. They'd never really re-engineered their business processes, looked to see what other features there were in Syspro. Did they still need all their customizations? So the very first thing was we did our infrastructure audit. We found they needed a new server, that very old server, and some of their network cards and the settings on those cards needed to be changed. Then the next thing, and this was significant, was they had an incredible amount of customization. And these had been done probably 10 years ago. And they were using commands in their customization. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but there were 2 specific ones they were using from then that were the right technology in those days and that were an absolute no-no today. So just by changing those VB scripts, particularly in sales order entry, but they did have them in many other programs, we improved their performance almost, I could say, about 150%. So that was a big, big factor for them. Then another example was an African example. This was a 100-user site who'd been a customer for 22 years. We also did an infrastructure audit there. And I just have to mention, it's not always Syspro. This was an external partner that I brought in to actually do the audit. It was a completely neutral environment. They looked at the backup policies, and what we found was that backup policies the backups were being done too frequently, and they were done as a full backup and not just an incremental backup. So we changed a lot of their policies. We also introduced a reporting server. So we moved all the data they needed from a reporting point of view into a reporting server, and so the transactional data was kept to a minimal. They had an incredible volume of transactions. Then the other thing we found, as I said, was there was excessive data. They had 20 years of unpurged data. So what we did was we created an archive company so that we could put all the data that was older than 2 years into the archive company, and it was fully accessible for them there. And we converted that data as well to the latest version. Then we changed their retention to 2 years, purged everything. And then we found there was still quite a few old transactions. And in looking at the detail, we found that what they'd done is they had never applied the AR payments to their invoices. Not never, there were quite a few that had not been applied. And in addition to that, they had never reconciled their cash book transactions. There were a fair number of those. So there was a whole project here on data cleansing. Then there are still, this one's not complete yet, there are still a few outstanding issues, but we are generally on top of everything, and they are a much happier customer. Then we have a situation, these aren't performance issues, these are customers that just have multitude of issues. And in some cases, you could have 20 to 50 issues that are really a challenge at this organization. So what do we do here? So these are really often upgrading. So what do? We have a call with the customer to understand, to allow them to vent, to explain to us exactly how they're feeling about their current environment. And then we do our infrastructure audit, as I've mentioned before. I won't go into that into detail. We create a list of issues, those that have already been raised, and of course, document the new ones that come up from the conversations. And as I said, sometimes this list can be as big as 50, 60 issues. From there, we apply triage, because obviously we can't tackle everything at the same time. And we escalate where relevant. So we unpack each and every issue that they have raised so that we can understand the detail behind it, and we can prioritize it. And in understanding the detail, it's not always a product issue. It might be the way the system was implemented. It might be how the users are using the system. It might even just be a training issue. So, and then the key to this is the duplication. Can we duplicate it in the standard environment, which is our on-site data, the outdoors company, as you all know and love it? Or can we only duplicate it on the customer data, or only on the customer data in the customer environment? And all of those are telling points in trying to unpack these issues. And of course, we have communication with the customer. And initially, we have a daily communication, just an update. This is what's happened with your tickets, with your issues. And also in that daily communication, it's important because often they're actions for the customer, they're actions for the partner, and they're actions for us as Syspro. So it's really just keeping everyone focused and on track to ensure that everyone is doing what they need to do. Then we have a weekly discussion by teams with the relevant people who've become the core team to resolve the issues. If we look at a Canadian example, this was 150 users, and they'd been a customer for 23 years. So they were one of the first customers to upgrade to Syspro 8. And there were teething problems. There were teething problems for the customer. There were learnings on our side as well. But the thing that was key was at this particular site, we had what I call a seeker of value who is incredibly proactive and a dedicated Syspro champion. The seeker of value is someone who's in the management team, sits on the board, but who is the principal person, the sponsor, to ensure that Syspro is rolled out correctly in that environment. They, on top of what are the new features that are coming out, what is it that they as an organization need to do, what is their strategy, where are they going, and they like to make sure that the IT strategy is aligned. They also had a dedicated Syspro champion, and it was wonderful because he was on top of his game. He knew what he was doing. We could talk to him as if he was a Syspro consultant. And they had performance issues, and the majority of these were from their remote users, which pointed to their network connectivity. And the other thing was understanding their requirements and the solution. So this was a lot of it was actually in the standard Syspro product, and it was just that the requirements hadn't been fully understood and the incorrect solution had been proposed. And there were actually a number of errors as well. I have to admit that. Today, this is a very happy customer and a great advocate for Syspro. There was an Australian customer. This was a 100-user. They've been a customer for 11 years. In addition, they also had a seeker of value, proactive seeker, dedicated Syspro champion. And I still speak to them every second month, even though the majority of the issues are resolved. They have an incredibly customized environment. And that's why it was a particularly difficult scenario to unpack their issues. And in addition to that, they had a Chinese company on the same server as their English company. With their double byte requirements for the Chinese, this caused additional challenges for us. In the time that we were working with them, they had 2 cyber threats and their data was hacked. So in addition to that, we had to look deeper into all of our data strategies and how we could actually protect their data better from any future cyber threats. They have extended the Syspro functionality. What do I mean by this? They have really taken the Syspro product to a different level. They use and embrace almost every single feature we have in the product, and are really, it's almost like a site on steroids. But it's really quite a good reference site as well. Probably the best in Australia. And yes, there were a number of errors, but we have resolved most of them, and they're just a few. All of those on the original list are resolved. There's just a few new items that have been added there. The African example. This is a 202 user, 6 PAS sites, and they've been a customer for 21 years. So as you can imagine, with 202 users, they are extremely high volumes at this site. They also have 4 key people involved. And the beauty of the site is they cared so much about ensuring that the Syspro upgrade was successful that they visited Syspro. They came up to our offices here and spent 2 days in the office. And what the beauty of this was that we could call in the relevant specialist at the right time to actually talk to the customer about that particular issue. So great reference. From what we do, we did an infrastructure audit. We have proposed a reporting server, which they're in the process of rolling out. And in addition to they had a very old server in their network, and they've replaced that as well. Then the next thing was they have high volumes. And with these extremely high volumes, they had a number of record locking issues as well as rollbacks. And this resulted in incomplete transactions, some tables being updated and not the others. So one of the key things that has come out in Syspro 8, the first lot came out in 2022, and the further ones, particularly around sales orders, coming out in 2023, which are the way we store our control records in the different modules. So the inventory, AR, AP were all done in 2022, and the sales order entry is being done now with 2023. So yes, there were a number of actual errors at the site. There was third-party integration that we had to be aware of and wrap our heads around so that we understood where the transactions were coming. Was it the business object, or was it the actual program? And they also had a number of issues with the Avanti version of POS, which we are busy working on, and we have the programmer working very closely with us. So yes, there are still a few outstanding issues, and we're hoping that the majority of these will be addressed with Syspro 8 2023. Then we had Avanti, and this was a very interesting customer. But I just wanted to highlight to you the triage that we go through, the process, is pretty similar to the normal process when there's an issue. The only difference is obviously we don't do the infrastructure audit, but we actually do a connectivity audit. This is how fast is the internet connecting to the particular data center and at the various locations at an organization. So otherwise, it's pretty much the same as I've shown you before. So there was an Australian customer. It was a 40-user site. They had 6 Espresso users, and they've only been on the software for 2 years. But they were one of our initial installs of Avanti. And the key issue here is what complicated was this particular customer did not want to see the standard Syspro interface anywhere. They believed they should use Avanti for everything. Now, unfortunately, that's not the case. You need to use the standard Syspro interface to do all your configuration and your setting up. And then you could use Avanti for your transactional processing. In addition to this, the customer was required to do an incredible amount of customization because in a way they had been oversold and there were unrealistic expectations. And really kudos to the partner for the amount of customization that she managed to achieve. And in addition to that, this customer had never been on an integrated ERP system before. So there was a lot of learnings that needed to take place for them of what they could expect and the benefits they were getting out of this integrated ERP. They did have performance issues, so we had to sort out their data centers and their connectivity. And they had Western Australia remote users. So as I said, we ran those tests. Yes, and in addition to that, obviously being the first Avanti site, there were quite a number of actual errors which we got resolved. Then just my last slide, what I wanted to talk about here is the vision that I have for customer relations. And I really would like all our customers to be empowered. And when we look at this, what are we looking at? We will provide you with a formal complaints platform. At the moment, it isn't, it's still informal, but that should be coming out next year. In addition to that, we want to provide you with access and visibility to your support tickets. So at any time you can see on our ticketing system what tickets you have open and where they are within the resolution stages. Then the other is access to information. And if you don't already have access to the info zone, please register on the info zone. You can do it via the corporate site or just ask your partner. And on that site, there are a number of knowledge-based articles, there are various forums, and on the forums, you can go and see what other people are posting. You can also post any challenges you're having. Has anyone implemented a different CRM system? If so, which one? And so you can ask. It's a community, and we want the Syspro people to be talking to each other and helping each other. And of course, then there's the education, which is the Syspro Learn It platform. And then the last I just wanted to mention was the communication. From a communication point of view, we have the Insider newsletter. This is a newsletter that I'm the editor of, and we are really trying to put useful information into this Insider newsletter. It comes out once a month, and it's really to keep you up to speed and up to date with what is happening within Syspro. And there are a few tools and tips just to help you with some challenges people have experienced and how they overcame those. So really, the end of the day, and I just love this, that I feel Syspro really is small enough to care, but big enough to make a difference. And I'd really like to believe that we, as our ecosystem, are out there giving you return on investment with solutions that can benefit your organization. Thank you, Brandon. So now I'd like to hand over to Sarah and Andrew from Trelawny in the UK. Just let me. Sorry, I need to stop sharing.
Thank you, Louise, and good morning, everyone. So just bear with me while I share my screen. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see that. Yep, super. So good morning. According to public speaking experts, or at least the ones on TikTok, the ones that I follow, you should all start a presentation with a couple of facts. So here are two facts this morning. Number one, sustainability isn't just about hugging trees, it's about securing the future of your business whilst also saving the planet. And number two, Syspro isn't just ERP software, it's the superhero cape that helps us to do it. So my name's Sarah. I'd like to thank you for inviting me to speak to you this morning. And anyone who knows me or spent any time with me will know that I'm a massive fan of Syspro. So by inviting me this morning, you've given me the opportunity for a fangirl moment, so thank you. I'm joined this morning by Andrew Longland, Managing Director of HIT Technology, my amazing Syspro support partner. And I've been working with them for, I think, over 15 years now. Andrew's incredibly long-suffering. He'll often get an essay from me, usually by WhatsApp on a Saturday night, saying, I've had a really amazing idea. How are you going to make it happen for me? And as I'm not going to be able to see all your faces this morning while I do the presentation, because obviously I'm in sharing mode, I'm going to ask you to keep an eye on Andrew for me. If he rolls his eyes or pulls faces, then feel free to take a screenshot and email it to me. I've put my contact details at the end of the presentation to make that easy for you. And at the end, when we get to the questions, if you've got any high-level questions that are quite technical, then Andrew will be able to answer that, because frankly, they'll be over my head. So I'm going to start this morning by telling you a bit about myself, about the company that I work for and my role within it. I'll give you a very brief overview of what I mean when I talk about sustainability, and then I'll give examples of how we're using Syspro here at Trelawny to support our sustainability journey. And I don't claim to be an expert on sustainability. I can only share with you what I've learned along my own personal journey. Some of you may be more advanced than I am on the subject, and I ask you to just bear with me a second while I give the overview, because I thought it was important to give a brief explanation of what I mean when I say sustainability for those people today who may only just begin in their journey, or who haven't even thought about sustainability at all. It's not even on their radar. And that actually was me about 3 or 4 years ago. And let's all be honest, it's not the most riveting topic to sit through a webinar on. In fact, I suspect a few of you might have seen that someone was going to talk about sustainability this morning and made a mental note of all the emails you can reply to while I'm talking, while you wait for the good stuff afterwards. Speaking of some good stuff, I've popped some QR codes onto some of the slides. Feel free to scan them while I'm talking or afterwards, and they'll give you a bit more detail about the stuff that I'm talking about this morning. So let's get the ball rolling, tell you a bit about myself. As I said, I'm Sarah. I'm the finance director here at Trelawny. That's my regular day job, and I have many other hats, but that's my main job. I joined the company 23 years ago, back when Syspro wasn't even Syspro, it was Encore 3.2, and we've stayed on top of our upgrades thanks to Andrew and his team, and we're currently using Syspro 8. As I said, I'm a massive fan of Syspro, and I'll often bore people to tears talking about how much I love it. And I've branded myself the unofficial brand ambassador of Syspro for the UK. So when I said it's a fangirl moment, I genuinely meant it. And it's lame, but it's true. And in addition, I'm currently interim finance director for one of our sister companies until they find somebody permanent for the role, and they don't use Syspro. And every day that I spend with them makes me even more grateful that we do. In fact, I love Syspro so much that I founded a Syspro UK user group, and for fun, I make little videos about Syspro, little did you know videos, and I share them on YouTube. So please do check them out. And if you have any wonderful nuggets that you think, I wish I'd known that about Syspro when I started using it, please share that with me. And I'll turn it into a video, and I'll make sure to credit you for your ideas, with your permission, of course. And finally, I'm hugely passionate about learning, and I love teaching back what I've learned to others. And in the words of Joseph Joubert, to teach is to learn twice. So I like to learn twice, sharing my knowledge, particularly Syspro knowledge, with my team and those in my wider group that I belong to. So, as I said, my proper job's with Trelawny, and we're a manufacturer of surface preparation equipment. We make a wide range of tools and machines, such as needle scalers and concrete grinders and polishers and deck descaling machines, and basically any machine. If you've got a problem with a surface, like you've got flaky paint, you own a bridge, like we all do, and you've got flaky paint on there, and you need to take that rust and that paint off back to a bare surface to give it a nice new paint job, then you'll use one of our tools to do that. And equally, if you've got a factory floor, warehouse floor, that you want to repaint, you'd probably use one of our floor polishers or grinders to bring that down to a really nice clean surface to paint onto, or to, if you like, to varnish like we have here. Most of our products are used within the marine, construction and oil and gas industries. And in the marine and offshore markets, our products are used for cleaning and maintenance of cargo vessels and oil platforms and the such. And in the construction industry, they're used, as I said, for concrete grinding, polishing, and we make a couple of ground tampers as well. So if you're digging a hole and you've got to put the earth back in, you might use one of our ground tampers for doing that. 80% of our products are exported all around the world, and we have subsidiaries in China and India, and they're our sales warehouses. So quite the opposite of what most companies in the UK do, where they import from China and India. Well, we're exporting to China and India. So we make the tools here at Leamington Spa in the centre of the UK, and then we ship them to China and India for sale into the Asian markets. In 2015, we were acquired by the Swedish company Indutrade AB, an international technology and industrial business group that today they own more than 200 companies all around the world. So we're a small company, but we're a big company. They are publicly listed on the Swedish stock market, and their business philosophy is based on entrepreneurship and decentralized leadership. So they'll buy a company and then they'll just walk away and let you run it as you were running it, just with additional, obviously, compliance because of the stock market regulations. A key area of focus for Indutrade is sustainability, which is where my speech this morning comes into it. And their sustainability strategy represents a shared commitment, I think, that the businesses within the group continuously develop and improve in ways that are economically, environmentally, and socially responsible. Because of this decentralized philosophy, their main flow of data from us is via a reporting process. Originally, this was just financial reporting, but in more recent years, the financial reporting is now, it has also been supplemented with sustainability reporting. So we not only have to do all our monthly and quarterly and annual finance reports, we also have to do the same for sustainability to track their sustainability goals. One of the biggest changes for us, I think, transitioning from a small family business to the Indutrade way, was this requirement for this robust, detailed strategic plan and this focus on sustainability, and to have that strategy. We had a strategy as a family but owned business, and we get together once a year and we update it and we go for a few beers while we did it. But once we were required by Indutrade, that had to be much more formal. And we had to create not only a 5-year strategic plan, and a very detailed one at that, but also a standalone sustainability strategy. And in more recent years, that's been partnered with a separate digitalization strategy. So I think what I'm saying here is that Indutrade really do love a strategy. Okay, enough about me. Mine. Let's move on to the interesting stuff. So when I say the word sustainability, what do I actually mean? What words pop into your head? And I actually posed that question to my colleagues when we first began our journey here. Most of them said, oh, clean oceans, or saving the rainforest, or renewable energy, protecting the polar bears, or the melting ice caps. And they were wrong. That's not actually sustainability, that's environmentalism. And environmentalism does form a part of the sustainability, it's true, but it's not actually what we mean. That's not the full story. So back in 1987, the UN published a report that it commissioned on the environment and development. The committee was chaired by a lady called Gro Harlem Brundtland, and she was the former Prime Minister of Norway. The report had a really long and fancy title. It was quite detailed, but it then became known as the Brundtland Report because she was chairing it. She was chosen to lead the committee because of her background in the sciences and public health. Now, after much deliberation, the committee defined sustainability as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Obviously, it's a massively detailed report, hence the QR code, so you can read it at your leisure. But to put it into its simplest terms, which is what I always like to do, the committee defined 3 pillars that underpin the principles of sustainability, which I always remember as the 3 Ps: people, planet, and profit. So, starting with the people, the report said sustainability has the power to unite staff to create a better work culture and work-life balance, and a healthy and sustainable workplace correlates to happier employees, and as a result, increases employee productivity and lessens work-related illnesses. So the message there was invest in your people, look after them and develop them, and they in turn will look after your company. Second P is for planet. The report said environmentally friendly companies save money, have greater productivity, enjoy competitive advantages, and set a positive example through their actions. So simple actions such as switching off the lights when a room's not in use, and we've changed all of our light switches here to PIR ones, so we don't have light switches, room just lights up when you walk in. It means that you're using less fuel to create that energy, you're putting less carbon into the atmosphere to create that electricity, and that you're buying less of it. So with today's electricity prices, we are saving a lot of money. And as for profit, well, if you have happier, motivated people that are focused on how every action that they take affects the planet, will by default improve your profit. And as a company, we've committed to having 100% of our employees become carbon literate citizens, credited by the Carbon Trust by the end of 2023. I was one of the first, and if anybody has the time to do it, I really do highly recommend it. It's a really valuable course to do. So how are we using Syspro to support that sustainability journey? So let's start with the important one, which is the people, and how we use Syspro for personal development. The COVID pandemic had a profound effect on all of our lives. People were scared. We were all living through this crisis that nobody knew how to handle. During the first few weeks of lockdown, I was really worried about the mental health of our team. Nobody knew what was happening. We were all scared. We didn't know how long we'd have to stay indoors. The whole world had effectively ground to a halt. We were locked into our homes, we couldn't work. And not only were we worried about the health of our loved ones and of course ourselves, but the news was full of companies laying off swathes of people to save money. So of course, everyone's then worried about their finances and am I going to get laid off and what's going to happen with my job? So in order to try and stem the flow of redundancies, the UK government introduced a furlough scheme. It meant that companies could recover 80% of the wages of each employee rather than having to lay them off through the tax system. And whilst employees weren't allowed to work under the furlough scheme, they were allowed to do up to 6 hours of training a week. So being eternally optimistic, I like to think that something good can always come out of something bad. I called Adam, my managing director, and I said, hey, look, let's roll out a training scheme for those 6 hours of training per week. I'll run it, I'll organise it. It will help give the team a way to keep in touch with the company and with each other. And it meant I could monitor their mental health. And if anybody seemed to be struggling, I could reach out privately offline and give them some additional support if they needed it. We'd already agreed to top up their wages to the 100%. So there was no penalty for not undertaking the training. I wasn't trying to force them to do it. But actually, 100% of the people signed up, which was great. So I went off and I started looking for training courses, and I'd literally just started looking for training courses that I could share with the team to do self-guided learning. And then just like a gift from God almost, this email arrived from Syspro. And they were offering all their customers free access to the Syspro Learning Channel, as it was called then, it's now Learn It, to support their customers during the pandemic. I hadn't, first of all, honestly, I hadn't even been aware there was such a thing. And so I really excitedly signed up to find out what it was all about and what treasures I could find. And honestly, I was blown away. There was so much resource there. Every night, I'd watch Syspro videos on a whole range of topics, and then I'd teach it back to the team the following day. I'm really not even joking when I say that I ran a 2-hour training session just on the Syspro ribbon, but everybody ignores across the top, 2 hours. And this Syspro training, which we began during the pandemic, actually formed the basis of our current digitalisation strategy. And I do want to just stop for a moment and say a massive thank you to Herman Maritz from Syspro UK. So over the past couple of years, he's been an amazing support, a mentor, and just a sounding board for me. I've bounced loads of ideas off him. And when I started to put the research document together for my digitalisation strategy, as in getting user stories off the team and trying to create that, Herman really, really helped me with it. He took my initial document, took it to another level by zhuzhing it up for me, as he did with today's presentation. And after I gathered together all these user stories, he helped me massively by giving me advice on which modules I could use to solve each of the issues that the guys had raised in their user stories. And if nobody uses user stories to problem solve, I really do recommend it. You ask your team to define, as a user, I want to be able to. When they can put it into actual words as somebody trying to implement it, it's so much easier. He also encouraged me to set up the UK user group, and he's usually one of the first people to see a video or a document that I've created, and he gives me great, very honest feedback. So thank you, Herman. Right, back to the strategy. Every single employee has engaged in and had input into the strategy, and I mean everybody. And even now, 3 years later, I still run weekly Syspro sessions. Anyone can drop in. They can request training on specific topics. We log the training hours as part of one of our sustainability KPIs, and there's a separate section in our personal development plan document just for Syspro to make sure that it's discussed at every personal development meeting or appraisal meeting if you're talking old money like me. Additionally, we have a Syspro Stars channel in Teams where we discuss all things Syspro. I share videos that I've made for the user group channel into there, so they see it first. And we encourage open discussion and knowledge sharing through the chat function. And we have a whiteboard at the top for gathering ideas and requests for development of manual processes and how we get that manual process inside Syspro, and everybody can weigh in with ideas on that. So that's really cool. And I can't even begin to describe what that one email, what an impact that one email had on our business. Our people are so engaged in Syspro, and they're always suggesting new and exciting ways in which we can use it more effectively. And to be honest, as people have left the business and gone on to pastures new, we haven't really had to replace them because of all these efficiencies that we found, making Syspro our single source of truth. We now have multiple licenses for the Learn It platform. And I love that I can listen to a course on my phone while I'm cooking dinner because I don't have much free time nowadays. It's a really handy way of keeping learning and learning new stuff about Syspro, but on the go. When I joined back in 2000, when I joined Trelawny, there'd been a really long period of downsizing. And, it was following a recession. There'd been no one in the finance team for over 4 months. And then I was the finance team on my own. Nobody knew how to use the general ledger module. And literally the only training I had was, here's your login name and password. So we've come a really long way since then. Our current headcount's 32. We were 40 pre-pandemic, yet our turnovers increased by £1 million. And I'd say probably still have quite a bit of capacity to spare. Most of this improvement in efficiency is driven by that digitalization strategy and the improvements and our pledge from all of us to make Syspro our single source of truth. Okay, so that's the people slide. So moving on to the planet pillar and how we use Syspro for saving the planet. One of my favorite sayings is that if you can dream it, we can do it. I tell the team that all the time. You can dream something, I can make it work in Syspro. And one day, Adam really put that to the test. He had this brilliant idea of tracking the carbon footprint of the transport of products to our customers. So for those of you that do know about sustainability, scope 3 downstream carbon footprint tracking or carbon emission tracking. And he wanted to be able to communicate that information to our customers, along with messaging about ordering earlier and shipping by sea, because frankly, most of our customers order too late and then request everything be sent by air. And this was a challenge. I know from my carbon literacy training that we can account for our carbon footprint by using the formula weight times distance times shipping methods. And whilst you could easily manually calculate that for every order, we're spending a huge amount of time and effort in our digitalization plan to not have manual processes. So how did I do it? I broke the problem down into 2 parts. One was how to capture the data required for the calculation. And then 2 was how do we then present that data to the customer. To begin with, I booked some time with the HIT team and worked through what the process of capturing the data might look like. The weight was the easy part because we already had that in our inventory tables. The shipping method was slightly trickier. We already captured this data against the sales orders, but as a free format comment. And not all sales orders are shipped in one go by one method. It's entirely normal for customers to place a large order and then ask for some of the stuff to go by sea and then some by air. So we resolve this by creating a custom field within dispatch notes, and then the shipping clerk will select air or sea or road from a drop-down list for each dispatch. So we've captured weight and we've captured the shipping method, but what about the distance? And this gave me the biggest headache. And I literally stressed over this for weeks. It kept going round and round my head, kept waking up in the night thinking, how am I going to solve it? Because I absolutely did not want the team to work this out manually. And then by sheer coincidence, I was talking the problem out loud with my son over dinner one night. He's a software engineer who often works with maps and distance calculations. And he told me about a formula that's freely available on the internet, and it'll allow you to use GPS data to calculate the distance. after I kicked myself for not thinking of him earlier, I remember that Syspro has a standard field for capturing GPS locations for invoice to and ship to addresses. It's a standard field. We already know the GPS location of the start point because everything is shipped directly from here at our head office. So if we made sure to capture the location of the delivery address, the GPS data for the delivery address, then we could work out the distance. So the final piece of the jigsaw was to then create a table in SQL that would allow us to calculate the formula against each dispatch note and store it to pull through when we needed it. And then the team at HIT amended my SRS templates for dispatch notes and invoices, which allowed us to present that data to the customer with messaging around the carbon footprint of that dispatch. It was a really difficult challenge, but I'm not only proud of the fact that we found a solution and reinforced the fact that Syspro is amazing, we can do anything with it, but I'm proud of the fact that we can see on our KPI dashboards a real change in customer behaviour with regards to shipping by sea rather than by air. And when one of our measures is total downstream emissions monthly, we track it monthly, you can see a definite downturn in the amount of carbon being generated through those shipments. And then the final pillar, which is profit and how we use Syspro for generating sales. This, I think, is probably my most innovative use of Syspro. As I've already said, one of our main markets is the marine industry. But one of the key issues that Adam identified when he joined us 5 years ago as a new managing director is that we had zero visibility of not only where our tools were being used, but actually where our customers were, in particular with the marine side. As an example, we have one fleet management company that manages over 680 vessels. Single-handedly, that company transports 1% of the entire world's containers and 2% of the commodities on a range of vessels, such as bulk carriers, container vessels, car carriers, oil tankers, and the such. Yet if you'd said to me which of their vessels had our products on board, I'd never have been able to answer you, or certainly not easily anyway. I'd probably look it up as a search on free format comments, but that was all I had. So Adam's creative blue sky brain, which infuriates me most days, came up with the wonderful idea of tracking the vessels as they travel around the world, knowing and knowing which of our products were on those vessels. And these vessels aren't sitting in one port, they're constantly moving from port to port, and we have zero control over when or where they are in the world when they may need a Trelawny product to maintain their vessel. So historically, the vessel will come into port, they pop into a ship chandler's, pick up whatever brand tool the ship chandler may happen to have in stock. And at the time, we were really proud that we had accredited ship chandlers in over 180 ports worldwide. But in fact, there are over 3,000 ports, 4,000 harbours, and almost 15,500 wharves all around the world. So to excuse the pun, we were just servicing a drop in the ocean. So how did we resolve this? Well, the first issue was that the only way we knew which vessels we'd sold to was way of free format text on the sales order. So I did a bit of reading up on Syspro and read the manual and found out that you can assign customer accounts to master accounts. You can have sub accounts and master accounts. And then I found out that every vessel has a unique identifier. It's called an IMO, or International Maritime Organization number, which is like a car's license plate. So I wrote to our customers and asked them for the IMO numbers of every vessel that they owned or they managed. Google was my best friend here, as I hunted down thousands of vessels because most of them didn't reply, and I set them up as sub-accounts against the master. I used all the information I gathered, and then I updated the accounts receivable module, and then we were off. And this process change now allowed us to identify sales by vessel. And then with a wave of a magic wand and a few choice names that they called me, the guys at HIT could then move the historical data, the historical sales data, to the new sub-accounts. So now I know which vessels are buying from us, what historically they've got on board. How do I know where they're going? And this is where Codeless comes in, Codeless platforms. Because I tracked down a company that provides AIS tracking data. And that's the data that tells you by IMO number where ships are heading, their estimated arrival date, amongst other things. I mean, there's also vessel weight and the flag it's sailing under and stuff like that. And they give it to you in the form of an API. So by partnering with Codeless, we were able to create custom fields in the AR Customer Plus table, which are now updated overnight and fill those fields in. So bringing data from the AIS provider, shoving it through Codeless and sweating it into Syspro. So when we look at a customer, we can now see the vessel, the next port of call, and their historical purchases. And then it was a simple matter of just creating a report that extracts the historic sales data by vessel and handing it to the sales team. They can then contact the superintendent of the vessel and say something along the lines of, you purchased this machine 6 months ago, it's now due for a service. Which port would you like us to send a service kit to? Oh, and by the way, I've got all these tools on special offer this month. How many would you like? I'll deliver them to the port you're going to be in a week on Tuesday. Just like when you go and order a burger, you get asked, would you like fries with that? Simple but effective. And our marine sales are our fastest growing market. So there you are. 3, I like to think, innovative ways in which we're using Syspro to support our sustainability journey. Hopefully you found it useful. Hopefully it's inspired you to go out and use it to fix one of your problems. And if you're using Syspro in innovative ways, I'd love to hear how. And you may have guessed, I do love a saying, so I'm going to end with one of my favourites. It's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. So thanks for being together with me this morning, and thanks to Andrew for being together with me on my many, I've got a great idea projects. If anybody wants to learn any more about it, I haven't bored you all to tears by now, please reach out to me by email or LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you. I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm going to hand over to Varshan from Actum, and thank you all very much for listening.
Morning, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well on this day. I'm Varshan, the Group IT Manager from Actum, and I'll be taking everyone through our journey to the 4th Industrial Revolution. Who is Actum and what do we do? That'll be covered in the slide as we go through it. Our agenda is who is Actum, our history with Syspro. It's a long and rich history within the Syspro ecosystem, the journey to the 4th Industrial Revolution, and what that means for Actum, the early stages of Control-C, Control-V, as I like to call it, the benefits achieved to date, and the challenge we still face as we continue our journey. So, Actum, who are we? I'm just going to play a 5-minute video that, I mean, it's difficult to encapsulate Actum in a paragraph. So let me play the video, and yeah, you guys can see who we are.
With diminishing natural resources, rising demand, greener resources, and ever-changing new technologies, Actum is positioned to provide our clients with a one-stop energy solution. Core to our value proposition and vertically integrated supply chain is to consistently synergize and evolve our product and service offerings in line with the world's energy needs and actively contribute to a more sustainable future. Actum, through its divisions, business units and supply partners, is well positioned to provide market-leading skills, technologically advanced products, and market-specific training to address the many burning questions currently facing the energy industry, from large-scale infrastructure installations to smaller projects and support services. According to the United Nations, climate change is global in scope and unprecedented in scale. Without drastic action today, adapting to catastrophic impacts in the future will be more difficult and costly. Actom, with its extensive network of businesses, provide comprehensive energy solutions, serving utility and industrial markets, both locally and internationally. Customers are assured of the best solution to any engineering challenge. Our engineering teams are skilled in the use of the latest modeling software, such as computational fluid dynamics for the simulation of combustion and flow. Actom has the expertise to provide you with the optimal solution by integrating our wide range of locally manufactured products, front-end engineering capabilities, and technical expertise. As the world grows smaller and technology becomes smarter, it has become imperative to embrace the fourth industrial revolution, which represents a fundamental change in the way we live, work, and relate to one another. Actom offers a new chapter in human development, enabled by extraordinary technology advances, commensurate with those of the first, second, and third industrial revolutions. We offer a digital platform for the acquisition of data and key growth factors. We believe in adapting our skills to assist any business into this new industrial revolution. Industrialization has become a campaign promise across the African continent, with its acknowledged ability to bring prosperity, new jobs, and better incomes. Yet, the continent is less industrialized today than it was 4 decades ago. Our services and solutions are backed by a strong manufacturing arm that includes an extensive range of large and small-scale engineered machinery and electrical equipment for utilities, mining, metals, paper, and the process industries. Actom is firmly committed to the goals enshrined in South Africa's constitution and the aims and objectives directed at attaining the optimum conditions required to provide equal services and opportunities to all South Africans. Our primary policy is to develop and expand our manufacturing capabilities and in-house expertise to the utmost instead of relying on imported products and skills. Actom Pty Limited is a Level 1 triple BEE contributor with 59.65% Black ownership and 35.63% Black women ownership. We employ more than 6,000 staff with dedicated training centers, 37 operating units, 54 productions, service and repair facilities, and 33 distribution centers. Are you looking for a one-stop global solution for your business? Whether in the renewable energy space, power and mining industries, or smart technologies, Actom has the answer.
So that was Actom. Now everyone can understand why you can't encapsulate Actom in a sentence or a paragraph. Our history with Syspro is quite rich. We go back quite a far way with Syspro, with 25 years plus being a client with Syspro. We go back so far that I actually found a Syspro catalog in a cupboard from 1997. And it just shows that, you know, the history with Syspro we have, and we like to store these documents and we treasure that history as well. We have about 31 active business units running Syspro in all various forms and shapes and different modules. We have a total of 656 users on Syspro and growing as we move and have that journey towards Syspro 8, people start to realize the functionality within Syspro 8, and we start to adopt more Syspro 8 and more users into the ecosystem as well. And Syspro is our ERP software of choice for the group. And you know, as I go through the slides, the Control C, Control V slide demonstrates why it's the ERP software choice for the group. So the fourth industrial revolution, and I've you know, been with Actum for 5 years, broken service. I left and I came back, and when we came back, when I returned back into the Actum family, you know, there was a big drive to actually modernize our systems, upgrade them, make them better, make them faster, make them quicker, live data, and start to move forward in terms of how we manage those systems, how we build those systems, and future-proof those systems. So in terms of the fourth revolution for us, you know, it became very evident that the steps needed were business process modeling, operational technology, and our IT infrastructure. Without having those three, that revolution means nothing. Without having a good business process model, you don't know what data you need to fix. Without having the adequate and fit for purpose operational technology, you find that, okay, I have the BPM, I have the IT infrastructure, but I'm missing a gap. I can't collect the data that I need, or I can't realize the benefits of a live, 100% live and living system. And then without IT being at the bottom, the top sections don't apply, because you can have all the operational technology that you want, but without having a good, stable, fast IT environment, it almost means nothing. So the three work hand in hand with one another, and it's a realization we have had, and it's a model we're slowly starting to adopt within the group, that this is how we need to address our issues and create a fourth industrial revolution technology stack, or business stack, if I can call it that. Then once you have all those three, it's very important to measure the results. You know, Louise touched on her presentation, actually, you know, all the problems that some of those customers have encountered. It was funny that you could actually slot them into these different criteria. And when you measure what matters, you can create a feedback loop and improve what needs to be improved. So what do I mean by measure what matters? So in this day and age, all of us are bombarded with data. You have millions of sensors, you have everything is connected, your phone is connected, your buildings are connected. What do you do with that data, and how do you actually realize the benefits of that data? I mean, let's take a simple stock take function. Someone walks to a shelf, scans a stock code, and then, you know, what do you want to measure? Okay, you want to measure whether my stock, my variance, value variance. Then you want to measure accuracy. Do you want to measure how quickly the guy has counted your warehouse? Do you want to measure how efficient he moves through the warehouse? So it's very important to measure what matters, then create a feedback loop, and then address each one of the industrial stack as you go through the process, because you have to have continuous improvement within the fourth industrial revolution. And we've adopted this model at a couple of business units, and it is working well. And this is what it actually means for us. We always start with the basics. We move through the basics and gradually improve through our feedback loop through the business. Now, a feedback loop can be as simple as just having a report. A feedback loop doesn't need to be a fancy Power BI dashboard or report. Also, a feedback loop can be just going and having a chat to your warehouse staff and asking them, are you happy with the solution and does it work? So it's very important to create this sort of loop within our environment, just because our technology stack and this stack touches so many aspects of a business. Finding the common challenges. So what the stack allowed us to do is actually find common problems across different business units and divisions. This allowed us to BPM. You can sit down with the business process model and look for similarities. They might not all be the same, but they're similar, which allowed us to create almost like a generic solution. It's like buying a car. You buy a car and then you order the color, you order your seats, you order the wheels, and it allows us to deploy quickly and very fast solutions around the group. Also, you know, with the whole technology and the stack, you know, it's always the culture shift within an organization. I mean, we've been around for 120 years. And we have a very low staff turnover, so people stay there for a long time, which is a good thing. But we also need to take them into consideration while we do this. Hence why that feedback loop and that stack is so important to Actum and the systems that we build. And well, one of the most important things for us is we must be able to deploy quickly. I mean, we've gotten it down that, you know, if that stack is developed in a business unit, we can deploy a stock take functionality within 6 hours. That's reports, any custom apps we've developed using the VBA modules within Syspro, and using scanning and live stock take. So the early stages of Control-C, Control-V. So with us adopting that feedback loop methodology in some of the divisions so far, what we've been able to do is almost Control-C, Control-V, copy-paste. So this diagram gives a very high overview of what we've done and how we've managed to copy the solution from one division to another. As an example, you can see for our stock take functionality, we managed to copy it to 3 divisions fairly quickly. With WIP issues, we've managed to copy it to 2 divisions, and we leave out electrical machines on that because they don't need it as yet. We also have, it's not in the slide, we have a division, electrical products, which is our take-a-lot as an example. They don't need any of the WIP functionality, but we have the ability to give them dispatch notes as an example, labor tracking and so on. So we can copy and paste around the group as and when we need to, making solutions a lot easier to deploy. We are in the process of putting a solutions register out to all the divisions. We're building out a full solutions register. And this is almost a shopping list for our divisions. They can go out, they can choose what they want. If they don't want a certain functionality within that type of function, then we just exclude it. And this is why we actually selected for these divisions. I got the name wrong. That's actually not electrical machines, that's electrical products. Why we choose Translution to do this, it's because it's quick and easy to move the solution around the group. And we can export, import, map it, and then the solution is up and running and working. This is why Syspro and Translution for us is just such a good match for the environment we're actually trying to create. Okay, some of the benefits we've already achieved using this method. Some of the divisions, we've brought down the stock takes from a week to 3 days. The stock take is a live, living system instead of a wait and see system. We've all done stock take. You have to write it on a piece of paper, take it to someone, they capture it, and then once the capturing is done, you then wait for your variance report. We can almost address variances as the stock take is happening live. We can also address any finger errors, which happen. Everyone's experienced it during a stock take live. And you know, this is looking at actually increasing our data accuracy, because we have rules built into our systems. You can't enter 1 million into the scanner, or you can't enter 3 million into the scanner, because that number doesn't exist in our Syspro. We continuously refine the solutions that we have. I mean, recently we just did a quick stock take test. As an example, we found ways to improve it, and through those improvements, we potentially could shave almost 1 hour to 2 hours on the stock take. An hour might not seem like much, but the quicker you get to looking for variances, the quicker you can actually finish your stock take. We keep the system simple, which means we accommodate for any user, right from the top level, high tier user, right down to the bottom user. So it means a financial manager can pick up a scanner and count. Your warehouse manager can pick up a scanner and count, or log into Syspro and use Syspro geared up for the stock take. And it's quick deployment around our decentralized environment. So some of the challenges we still face, it always exists. The culture change, you know, we always face that culture change in changing people's mindsets to adopt a system. You know, we always try to show them the benefit and work with the guys on the floor. We work with the guys, I repeat that, we work with the guys on the floor to help them build a system. Because ultimately they are the ones that use the system and either say whether the system actually works or doesn't work. They're the ones that adopt it or don't adopt it. We also have legacy IT issues, and that comes back to our technology or industrial revolution stack, where we have to fix everything in order to move forward. And well, change that happens quickly sometimes is very scary for users and people. So, you know, it's around managing the change control around people more than the technology. And that's where the feedback loop actually comes in, and why it's so important. And that is us for the Actum and what we're doing with the 4th Industrial Revolution. Very simple, yet very effective, where we've actually deployed it and where we're working to deploy it. Thank you very much. I now hand over to Aaron from Bitcorp.
Thank you, Sean. Let me share my screen here quickly. Cool, I hope everybody can see that.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay, so yeah, today I'm going to take you through the through who we are as a business, as a company, and I was very proud about our 111-year history, and it's great to see that we have another South African company that's got more years in the business, and it shows a resilience in the business and the way we do things. It's a very positive. So I'm going to take us through who we are as a business and what we do. I will hand over then to Mark, who will take us through our ERP landscape, our Syspro journey. So from the Syspro journey, I'm only with the company just over a year now, and my exposure to Syspro at this level has also been just over a year. So I had to go and approach a few people in the company, and the great thing is we really have a very deep Syspro experience, and very deep Syspro experience in the company through various individuals. This also brings a challenge that a lot of changes and issues are very deeply debated on which way to go and get to an answer. But that's also a very good thing, because it means we always arrive at the right answer and the right solution for the business. Then Mark will take us on, why we're using Syspro, and then, the questions here we'll leave for the Q&A session at the end of this. So Crown Food Group takes its history right back to Newtown in just off the Johannesburg CBD. It was essentially the start of the South African industries. Over time, it was rebuilt and quite a lot of aggressive changes happened in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Still today, the new market building, Newtown Market building, is still there, and remnants of the abattoir, which at the time, around 1912, when the Newtown Tin Works was there, it was doing about 500 carcasses per day. So it was feeding quite a large population around in the gold mines and in the Johannesburg CBD. Newtown Tin Works then evolved, and Tiger Brands got involved, as well as Premier Milling. And from what it seems like from history, the batch pack and the seasoning portion was taken out of that group, and Crown Mills was founded, and Newtown was taken over with a brand called Renown. So we're thinking that there might be a resemblance between Crown and Renown. But unfortunately, the history there is not very well documented. What I could find was that Crown Mills was around about 1937 that was founded. It soldiered through the Second World War, and after that, it just grew around Johannesburg and started, moving out to Cape Town. And then in 1985, Brian Joffe and the Bidvest Group came along, and they saw an opportunity, and they amalgamated Crown Mills and National Spice into what we now known as Crown National. In 1988, Columbia Foods was also added to the company, and then in 2016, Bidvest decided to spin off the food businesses into a Bidcore and list that separately. This is our company structure. So Bidcore there, and then there's a number of Bidcore companies. There's a Bidcore Food Africa, Bidcore Asia Pac, and for the regions in the world. And then under Bidcore Food Africa, we Crown Food Group, which is the companies with Bidfood, and then Chipkins Paratos as well, which is supplying bakery equipment and dough to the market. And then under Crown, there's Crown National, our ingredient solutions business. We also have a food exports, and then Griffith Crown, which is a joint venture with KFC's Griffith US company who supplies the breading for the business. Then, who are we as Crown National or Crown Food Group? We're leading B2B supplier of food ingredients, equipment, and packaging to the mainly our biggest market is the independent butchers, and that's about 60% of our business at this point. Then we're also moving and starting to play very strong in the HMR, the home replacement meals. That means package the ingredients that you just add water to create a sauce, or basically replacing having to make complicated recipes, etc. We operate out of 10 distribution branches. We've got 6 depots and 25 factory marts. In the factory marts, we also run Syspro POS. Then we have a manufacturing facility here in Montague Gardens, where myself and Mark situated. We've got two plants here, a wet and a dry plant. Wet is obviously for sauces, and the dry is all the spices and batch packs, etc. As mentioned, we supply to independent butchers. We're also very involved in the QSRs, such as Burger King, Hungry Lion, also through Griffith Crown, KFC, We're a very big player there. We also supply to the meat and poultry processors, coming back from the Crown Mills days where they supplying the abattoirs with batch packs, etc. And then also we mainly B2B business, so we mainly supply to the wholesale market. We've got brands there. Meister Club's one big brand that we only sell as wholesale. And then HMI as mentioned, and then we're also looking to and investing in Africa, in emerging markets where we are growing our export market at this point. Got a short video here for this will be our dry plant. As you can see, big 6-gun grill is a very big part of our business and sponsorships. I'm sure you guys have seen us in the market. Then our big one. Then again, Jimmy Sauces, which is also a big part of our business. This is actually a partnership with it's a family business situated in Brackenfell, to which we have the exclusive manufacturing of Jimmy Sauce. I'm going to hand over to Mark Harrison. He's been around the Syspro block a few times. He knows the system very, very well. He's also done a lot of our expansion and development implementations for the business. So over to you, Mark.
Hi, can everybody hear me? Hi.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just take you a bit through the way the company is structured from a Syspro perspective. We run 2 distinct planning environments, manufacturing and distribution. Inside those 2 environments, we've got 3 manufacturing companies and 3 distribution companies. The distribution companies are further segmented by 17 group branches. One is a joint venture entity, and the other one is a foreign currency company, which we have in Africa. In total, we have about 27 distribution wholesale warehouses, And then, as Arend mentioned, we have 25 retail entities, which we call factory marts, where we employ the POS system. All distribution companies currently run a decentralized warehouse supply system, including multiple order policies and replenishment methods. Set to suggest supply chain transfers or purchase replenishment, depending on what order policies we've set against each warehouse. Our manufacturing companies run a centralized consolidated warehouse system with a warehouse to use by item class, and batch sizes in that system are scaled according to ordering parameters that are set for each item and according to the demand coming into the factory. MRP is obviously a big focus for us at the moment, as we are a very, very large footprint across South Africa as a distribution company. So it's set up custom to each environment, and that's allowed us to focus on the different types of planning required in each of those environments. And in those environments, we involve simple forecasting, and we also involve lot traceability expiry when we actually use our MRP system. For lot traceability itself, we have it automatically assigned for manufactured items, and the packing lines in the plants that you saw in the videos there are integrated. The machines themselves are integrated to take information from Syspro's work in progress module and imprint it on the labeling. Landed cost tracking, we are deploying our distribution company on our foreign purchases to allow for the definition of a bill of costs for each item by its shipping route. And our point of sale system, which we've got, is deployed to 25 retail outlets, like I mentioned, and one of those is in Zambia. The supplemental software that we've currently got includes RightScan for our barcode scanning, DataWrapped that assists our finance function for complex reconciliation activities, and we're currently evaluating and exploring the benefits of using Trelawny, which you'll see as well, which will assist with our accounts payable function. Yeah, next slide, Arend. There we go. Our Syspro journey in 1998, we were running Syspro before it was known as Syspro, an Impact Award. I think I myself have been involved in Syspro, but just 2 years younger than that. I started in 1996. Mid-2000s, we upgraded to our first graphical user interface called Impact On-Call. Not On-Call, that's a speller there, On-Call. Centralization of implementation started, but companies were still separate on a Unix platform. In the early 2010s, we moved to Syspro 6, centralized our implementation, that we had separate copies of the companies. We were running a lot of different versions at that point, and it involved quite a bit of fancy footwork in terms of our factories. I arrived on the scene in just after that, and implementation of RightScan at that point was a bit of an issue because we were running one version of Syspro 6 in one factory, and we'd already moved on to version 7 in one of the other factories. And in the mid to late 2010s, we migrated to Windows and SQL and 6.1, and slowly through to version 8 onto there. Since 2020, we've had a fully centralized system into our manufacturing and trading companies. That's the distribution and manufacturing environments that I told you about. And we are slowly but surely expanding our options into using Syspro and trying to use more of the benefits it provides. Why do we choose Syspro? Like Arend, I haven't been long with the company. I think I'm 7 years in Crown this year. We have industry-specific features, and it comes as a conveniently modularized package that ensures a cost-effective implementation, and it seamlessly integrates with the existing core modules that we've got as we add on modules when they're deployed. Syspro's lot traceability module is essential for our compliance functions in the industry, and the flexible and customizable Syspro reporting design options that are available within Syspro itself are more than adequate to service our multiple viewpoints from different functions within the Crown enterprise. In particular, Syspro's office automation with its trigger programs, event management, and electronic signatures is a perfect complement to both reporting and security, security is extremely important for the Crown Fruit Group, particularly as we are protecting quite a lot of intellectual property, not only our own, but our customers as well. And after all of that, we benefit from being a strategic Syspro account, which enables us access to the best support and personalized service from the team at Syspro itself. And that's it for me.
Great, thanks, Mark. The next slide, just a short summary of our strategic partners and the companies that we deal with. And there's a short, 5-minute marketing video I would like you guys to share with us.
Thanks, Irene and Mark. That was great. My name is Tracy and I'm the General Manager of Strategy and Operations here at Trailed. I've got with me as well Louise De Jager, and she's our implementation specialist and based in South Africa. We really just want to chat to you briefly today, realise that we're running short of time in our sugar session, just about the Trailed product. We're excited to announce that Trailed is now a global ISV with Syspro, and we've been working with the team at Syspro in order to achieve this, as we aim to really closely align to Syspro's processes, the business objects, and using integrations and working with Syspro customers globally to enable that our product is best of breed. I think it's interesting today that some of the presentations we've heard have been focused around sustainability and cybersecurity, and we've mentioned about integration, flexibility, and security. And I suppose they're all things that are really close to my heart with the Trailed software. Just for those who haven't seen Trailed, I've got a couple of screenshots Really, Trailed is about streamline, automating, protecting your accounts payable. So it's about having a central repository, and this is the main screen that a clerk will use, where you can actually enter all of your invoices or your accounts payable invoices as they arrive in the organisation. It's about knowing and having OCR and machine learning technology read the data that's sitting on an invoice, but also understanding who's currently assigned that invoice and where is it sitting within your organisation. As you go into an invoice, and you'll be able to see this MECX invoice, you can see it's actually read off the invoice number here. It's automatically assigned it to a Syspro supplier. It's read the purchase order number off the invoice date. You can post it to the various posting periods you would expect in Syspro. And then if there's a GRN that's available to that purchase order, you can match that GRN. Trailed also, as well as just enabling you to do your accounts payable in a more streamlined fashion, also has fraud protection risks embedded in it. So if I'm having a look here, I'm looking at this screen at the top is really what our approvers are going to see. And again, when I come back to, I think it was Varshan who was talking about measure what matters. And I think really we're also having a look at, you know, our invoice approvers get so much data at their hands, and they've got so many invoices they're looking at. And really we're trying to say, okay, these are the ones that are more important. These are the ones that have a higher risk warning. And if I look at this particular invoice that's got a higher risk warning, it's talking about how the payment details that were on the invoice are different to the payment details that we've got on our supplier invoice. And this would seem a fairly major issue if we were about to push this supplier and this invoice into our system. And this is really where we start to have a look at the cybersecurity that Trails enables us to look at automatically. When we're looking at our flexibility throughout the system, we're having a look at, well, how can we set up approval rules? How can we assure that the Trailed product is encapsulating what all of our customers need? And we're actually looking at the suppliers, we're looking at invoice values, we're looking at purchase order buyers, we're looking at jobs. All these kinds of things can drive various approval rules throughout the system. So that's really where Trailed is at. Some of the things that are coming soon is we've got a payments review screen that's coming up. Customers can do their payment cycle in Syspro, and as they do that, it'll come up into a review screen. They'll be able to see what the status is. They'll be able to see the invoices that are within that payment, and then who approved that within Trailed. We'll also be able to drill down from an audit point of view to that invoice in Trailed. That'll actually stop us from having to print quite so many invoices, save a few trees, and make it a little easier for our CFOs and financial managers to be able to see what's in our payments. We're also going to be bringing in the next few months a supplier reconciliation module, and this will allow you to actually tick off those invoices that are on your supplier statements so you can see where you're missing certain things. We've got a short video now that we're just going to show, which is actually an interview that I did with one of our valued customers on their experience with Trailed. Hi ladies, thanks for joining us today. We've got Michelle and Chelsea here from Vinimark, and they've kindly offered for us to interview them about their Trailed system. Ladies, do you want to just give us a bit of a rundown of who you are, where you fit?
Hi everybody, I'm Michelle Kipito. I'm the finance manager at Vinimark Trading. Been with Vinimark Trading for about 3 years. Finance manager, I look after all the accounting and make sure accounts payable especially works well in Vinimark.
Excellent.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Mayer. I'm financial accountant at Vinimark. I've been at Vinimark for only 1 year now. And my role is also about looking after all the accounting, and we have quite a large group. So I assist with many of the entities in the group and assist Michelle with all of her responsibilities. Yeah.
Excellent. Do you know how long you've been with Syspro for? Longer than you've been there.
Long.
Much longer. Yes.
Much longer. There you go. And you're on Syspro 8, aren't you?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. I suppose I'm just curious because I don't know that I know the answer. What made Vinimark and you guys actually look at Trailed? Where did you first hear about it? What was there a specific problem you were looking at? How Trailed?
Vinimark, we are a big group. It's not just one entity. We have a few entities in the group, and it ranges from a normal wine distribution, which is our core business, but we also have farms that we look after, and then we have some holding companies. So when I started, the first thing I noticed was all the manual capturing of invoices. Okay, and the second thing was all the paper that went through and all the cheese we cut down at Vinimark, by all the paper we print and file and everything. Okay, so we started looking at accounts payable solutions. What I liked about Trailed was that it was first an automatic capturing AP solution and then a document storage solution. All the other demos we've seen and all the other solutions we've investigated was mainly a document storage solutions. And the capturing and the integration to Syspro was a secondary solution to it, where with Trailed, it's the other way around. It's first capturing of invoices, automatic capturing on invoices and integration into Syspro. And then the document storage solution is almost an added bonus. Our service provider, Salutis, introduced us to Trailed, or gave us the Trailed information. We also went to the the Syspro roadshow, where we also saw more about Trailed. And from there, we met Tracy and Adam, and yeah, we're here now.
There you are. Excellent. And I'm right, you've had Trailed about 3 months, is that about right? About July?
1st of July. 1st of July, we went live.
There you go. Excellent. All right. And curious to know, how did you find the sort of implementation? What sort of cycle did you have to go through? You know, does it take months and months? Was it short? How did you sort of find that?
I think we had like a testing period of about 1.5 months where we just had our accounts payable ladies working on Trailed and, you know, testing some invoices through the system. And then when we went live, I mean, when we were live, we were live. So it was working, and the accounts payable ladies, they started already from the 1st of July. We then rolled out our approval processes only afterwards in a phased approach, because as Michelle said, we have so many different businesses within the group. You know, we have the exports, we have our core business, which is our distribution, we have the farms, and all the approval workflows is all different. So we followed a phased approach, and we should be up and running soon with our last group of people for approvals. And yes, I think it's went very smoothly with the implementation, and Tracy, you and Louise have been amazing and been answering all of our questions, and we've got a lot of support from you guys. So I think it went really smoothly.
Excellent. How many people roughly are in the whole team, if you think about all the AP clerks and the various approvers you've got across all your entities?
It's quite a few. I think it's about 40. That includes the captures aren't so much. The captures about 7 captures, but then we have across the business, we have various approvers, and we have approval levels with amounts. So if something is, if my, say, Chelsea's approval limit is only 30,000, so she can only approve up to 30,000, and then it must go to the manager that maybe approves up to 100,000. So that flexibility on approval levels and limits was super awesome in Trailed. But based on that, we have quite a big number of people approving on Trailed.
Yeah, okay. And how did you find, did you find you had much of a change management issue with, you know, trying to bring a new system into any organization when you're trying to hit 40 different people? Did you have much of an issue with that, or were people sort of engaged and interested in taking it on board? Any challenges you had with that?
Our approvers love the process, because before they used to get a manual invoice, or supplier used to email an invoice, they have to print it, they have to sign it manually, then they have to scan it to our AP team. So if I just give a little background, our AP team is all in Stellenbosch, but our business spreads across the country. We have warehouses in Gauteng, in Durban, everywhere. So people have to manually authorize and send the invoices. Now we are losing, that's completely gone. Nobody needs to print an invoice. Invoices get sent to a dedicated email address that gets uploaded into Trailed, and we assign invoices to approvers to authorize. Approvers go onto Trailed and they approve. Or what we also like is these little comment box, so we can chat with the approver. The capturer can chat to the approver can chat and answer the capturer before any invoices are paid, approved and paid.
Yeah, excellent, cool. And then I suppose if you look back now for the last 3 months when you've been using Trail, do you think that you've kind of really managed to achieve what you actually set out to look at by getting that sort of automation of AP and those kind of things that you were initially looking for?
I think definitely. I mean, I think we've seen a big growth in the streamlining of our AP. Also, like Michelle explained, how the invoices come through an email inbox. It's not 5 people managing their own inboxes along with their own personal emails, along with, you know, a lot of other things. So we've streamlined that process. The approvers are loving it. They also don't like millions of emails. So I think that was, you know, achieving efficiency within our teams. And yep. And of course, the paper. Don't forget about the paper. We've also not printed so many things anymore. So, I mean, I think we really did achieve what we wanted to.
Excellent. And I'm betting you don't have any AP clerks who are arguing that they don't have filing to do.
No, no more filing. Which
Everyone
is awesome.
seems quite happy with that. All right, one last question. If you could give Trailed any suggestion, what would it be?
I think in our company at this moment, we require lots of visibility with our supplier payments and our supplier reconciliations. So I do know that there is a little something perhaps coming or in the pipeline. So we're looking forward to that. And also, in our business, we've tried to use Trailed in a lot of different ways. So like Michelle said, our core business is distributing wines to our supermarkets, restaurants, you know. So there are maybe like promotional activities that the supermarkets offer the customers or consumers. And then those we do bill back to our brand partners. So we've used Trailed to sort of keep track of, here's a supplier invoice coming to charge us for promotional activity. We need to charge that on to our brand partners. So, I mean, we are using Trailed to keep track of those things. But of course, with any business, we do also have specific developments that we would like. So in the future, we would love if Trailed would be open to doing, you know, client-specific developments. Yeah.
Sounds good. All things for us to look at. So thank you so much, ladies, for your time. It's so cool to hear from customers who are actually using the product and who are seeing that benefit from it day to day and able to sort of integrate that throughout their whole company. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Stacey.
Bye.
So I think that's interesting. It gives you a bit of a perspective, I suppose, of a customer who's using Trailed and where they're sitting and how they've found that implementation cycle. I've got, as I said, Louise with me today, and she's doing the implementations for our South African and our EMEA sites. Louise, maybe just quickly, you could actually give us some idea about how have you found the implementations and responses from the EMEA customers?
Great to have everybody. The implementations generally we find very fast and seamless, and
The need for change management after an implementation is absolutely minimal, as customers find using Trail very easy and very easy to incorporate into the processes. We have had implementations that start on a Monday, where the customer went live by the Friday. So yes, that's a full implementation in only 4 days.
Excellent. Thank you for that. I suppose just to wrap up, I want to thank you for just listening and seeing that. If anybody is interested in having a look at Trailed, if you've got some questions, feel free to contact us on the sales at Trailed software, or of course speak to your Syspro partner. They are all familiar with Trailed. If you would like to have a demo, feel free to put something up in the Q&A panel on the chat here, or if you've got any questions, then put something up in the chat. But for now, I'm going to hand over to Brandon, who's going to wrap us up for today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Tracy. Thanks to all the panelists. Thanks for your great presentations. Before I hand over to Bongani to do the official wrap-up, I just want to say thank you to the Syspro marketing team, Fatini and her team, also to the Fizz marketing team, to you, Michelle, Charles, and David. Thank you very much for your assistance with the logistics, etc., and the technical support. There is one question which is posed to Varshan at Actom. Varshan, are you unmuted?
I am now, yep.
Okay, great. It says, the Actom presentation, what is the software that you were using before you transitioned to Syspro?
So look, we've always been on Syspro. We're on the journey from transitioning from some of the divisions from a KVM system, which is like 40 years old, over to Syspro. And then for the scanning solution, a lot of the divisions are going with Translution in terms of the scanning solution. No scanning existed before that in these divisions.
Okay, so from the outset, I think the question is, from the outset, you went direct to Syspro.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, great. Hope that answers the question. The question is anonymous, but if you have any clarity further, please reach out to me. Thank you, Varshan, and thanks again to everyone. Bongani, just to you to the wrap-up, please.
Thank you, Brendan, and thanks to all the presenters. I think my takeaway is quite, I've seen a lot of the exciting stuff that has been presented by Louise. I think you've put it in such a very practical way on how to handle all the issues that that we have with Syspro. So I think thanks for that. There's a need for me. I saw a need to step back and then review before doing any upgrade. I think that's quite crucial, instead of just upgrading from one version to the other. I think that's quite really insightful. From Trelawny, I think the sustainability approach that you presented to us, planet, people, and profit, those three pillars, I think that was quite profound. And how you have driven the training of the whole entire team to get everything right is quite, I must say, it's quite outstanding. I think for me, it's also a challenge for me to, not as far as you have done, but I think I can learn one or two things. I think we can all adopt something. The more we train our users, the better they will be able to utilize the system. And Vishan from Actom, thank you for pointing out how you have simplified a complex deployment across the group, and you've made it, like you've said, Control-C, Control-V, how you copied and pasted from one division to the other. I think that's quite a smart way of looking at it. Arend and Mark from Bidcorp, I see the long journey that you showed us. What I also picked out there is that you have utilized Syspro to even on the cybersecurity side, because I can see that the recipes are quite important, and you have been able to utilize Syspro, all the bill of materials that you have. You've trusted Syspro to keep those, and I think that's quite good. And the crucial use of different modules. What I find is that you have very specific modules that are relevant to your business, which is the nice thing about Syspro. It cuts across the different sectors or the different industry sectors. And then lastly to Tracy with Trelawny, I think that's what most of the business need. A lot of us need that, the excellent streamlined system in the accounts payable side. The days of running around with paper are all gone now. And perhaps it'll be quite interesting to know, maybe as time goes on, how others are managing the influx of emails, because that could be another bottleneck. But I see Vinimac, they've been able to so far to deal with the emailing side and also to the alerts and the like. Thank you for the good feedback from Vinimac. I think that's all from my side, and thank you to all the attendees. We have seen the sugar presentations grow from just above 100, and just in this ninth user group, we've had about 310 registrations. I think it's quite, it shows that the thought leadership and also the case studies that are being presented are definitely adding value to all the Syspro companies and to all the users at the end. Thanks to Brendan for your leadership and the leadership at Syspro as well. I think we've come to the end of our session. Apologies for going over by 3 minutes. We hope it was worth the time. Thank you.